All right, here with another episode of the Field of 68's Off the Carousel series. Here with Houston Christian head coach Craig Doty. Coach, how you doing so far? You've been on the job for a couple months. How's it treating you so far?
Yeah, everything's great. We just drove a U-Haul truck from the state of Kansas, about 800 miles down to
Ooh,
Houston, Texas. My 15-year-old and my dog were in the 20-foot truck, and then my wife and our three other children were in the SUV following behind. So we got them moved down here. It's been a little lonely when you have four children and you're not with them you're used to being with them on a daily basis, obviously, and then you
hmm
come down and you dive into your work. It's quite the lifestyle change, but I'm happy they're down here with us now. And now that school ended, you don't want to pull your kids out in the middle of the semester. So
hmm
school ended, and they're here, and we're getting settled in, even though there's boxes everywhere, Sean.
Well, how'd you pass the time without your kids? I mean, all that free time on your hands, what'd you do?
Well, I mean, it's just we needed to recruit a whole roster. When we got here, the entire team had either graduated or was in the portal, and we inherited a team that was 6-23 last year. So it not necessarily a bad thing that they were in the portal, but in general, that's just kind of the era we're in. Is the era of mobility and movement. And as a coach, it would be tough to speak negatively of that. This is my fourth rebuild job, and now this will be my 13th year as a head coach. So, I guess that's kind of my pattern too, is to give, 2, 4, 6 years to a school, grow the program up, and then move. In the case specifically here, a lot of the student athletes were in a position where they needed to get to the level where they belonged at. And so yeah, in the portal, that was fine, but that also meant we had 13 scholarships to give, and we currently have 12 of those signed in the past eight
Okay,
weeks. It's
okay,
been
you've been
difficult
busy.
without an NIL collective, and just kind of all the changes that go on. But we've been busy, and we've built a roster that we feel will be competitive, certainly on the defensive end, and we'll figure things out offensively too.
So no NIL collective. A lot of schools have them, some don't. How are you able to recruit a roster without NIL collective? Do you still have NIL you're able to give? How does all that work, especially when you're in the South and especially when you haven't had a lot of success as a program at the D1 level?
Yeah, I mean, the program has struggled in the past 7, 8 years, and everything's changed. When we took the job, at the time, only McNeese had a really active collective in which, when Will Wade got the job there, it was shown just by the talent he was able to bring in, and then, of course, he can coach at such a high level too. Well,
hmm
when that happens, a lot of administrators and presidents look at wow, how's this team winning like this, and kind of what's their formula. Well, their formula is to look at kind of what's going on with the landscape in college basketball, and they're really taking the lead on that. And so, in the Southland, you have 8 of the 11 teams have active collectives, which range roughly between 100,000 and just under $1 million. And I mean, we got ACC players coming from Syracuse into the Southland now who
Yeah.
average right at double digits. And we have a backcourt from the MAC coming into the Southland's going to be probably better than it's ever been before. You
Oh
just
yeah,
look at the
no
talent
doubt.
pool and the roster; it's unbelievable. So everything has been elevated up. So all this has changed. We get the job. We've been here for 8, 9 weeks now, and we're coming to find out that everybody has now started or have built collectives up. It's a little different at the low Division I level than it is at the Power 5 level. At the Power 5 level, for instance, in football, a coach can plead, hey, we need 5,000 people to get $5,000. Well, that's
hmm
$25 million, and
Yeah.
that's really not that tough to drum up. Okay, if
hmm
you have a football stadium that holds 100,000 people, in the FBS, to get 5,000 people to get $5,000. I mean, there's a lot of money there. There's a lot of successful alumni,
Oh
and
yeah.
there's enrollment basis ranging, between 30,000 and just a hair under 100,000. When now with online and everything else, so it's different at the Power 5 level than it is at the low major level. At the low
hmm
major level, some of these schools are struggling to keep the lights on, and
Yeah.
but yet they're paying players to come play out of a collective. So it's kind of sugar daddies and buy games. That's the two ways it's going. At the low major level, there's some rich alum that just wants to to give money, and it goes in a collective, and a coach assigns that during the recruiting process to who's getting what. And there's nothing the NCAA can do about it. They've been operating illegally without an antitrust exemption through Congress for 50, 60 years with bylaw saying you cannot make money. Well, you can't do that in this country. It's America. You can't limit people from being successful and making money.
Yep.
You can if there's an exemption, but there wasn't one. So they're tied up in the courts, and things are just a wild west right now. So for us, we have to find unique ways of appealing to student athletes and finding kind of that sweet spot. For us, it's finding Division I transfers who have experience. We're looking for 800, 1,000 career minutes plus at the Division I level. But if they're averaging 7 a game, they're worth, pending if they're coming from the low, mid, or high major. But if you're averaging 7 a game at the mid level, you're worth 50 plus. So we're not getting you. But if you're averaging 3 to 4 points per game, we can get you, and we've shown that with our signees so far. The hope is that these student athletes were underutilized at their previous schools, and they're ready just to take that jump. Where we'll get in trouble is if they actually weren't underutilized, but they just weren't good enough, then we're in trouble, right? But we do trust our eyes, and we've been certainly running full evaluations, and at the very least, they fit what we're trying to do defensively from a prototypical standpoint of how we want to switch 5 ways. We have some great athletes. We have some players we feel are just ready to jump off, and we're excited about what we've been able. The production side of things, we can get some junior college guys that are produced, but on the portal side of things, if you're a 4-year transfer and you have production, you're in the NIL market. Simple as that. So we're just trying to find unique ways to build rosters that are competitive, and we're excited about where we're at, especially considering the circumstances as we move forward into this new era of hoops here at Houston Christian.
So you mentioned how it's kind of the Wild West right now, and obviously there's a lot of different ways this goes. I mean, you're really not fully committed to a school until you're signed and in classes, because we know that can change real fast. You can get a call from a different coach and you're gone in the matter of days, even once you're verbally committed, right? That means nothing at this point. But what would you say the biggest thing that has to change, or just the biggest problem with NIL is right now?
This is a great point that you make. Is there just has to be some rules. I mean, no matter what in competitive sports, everybody's going to try to bend whatever rules there are. There has to be leadership. There's no leadership at the top, and that's part of the problem. And the leadership that's trying to be put in place is getting sued out of their minds in courts right now. So because of that, there's no way of establishing. We had a player, Trey Buchanan, who played for us at Division II Emporia State. He played Division I at South Dakota State, averaged 6 a game. Left his 6 point per game, came play for us, averaged 25.6, and went overseas. He went to Cyprus, and he made about $3,000, $3,500 a month, and had a great year. And then he went to France, and he more than doubled his income. And he was MVP of that league this past year. And now he's going to go again. And then what he's going to do? He's going to do his best in EuroLeague and try to get over here to the States and try to make the league. Like, he's going to bounce every single year because, and that's unfortunately kind of what college basketball is looking like right now. Is everybody signed to 1-year deals, and there's going to be a struggle for continuity amongst rosters as a result of this. Now, is it right? Is it wrong? It's not for me to talk. It's not for me to judge. It's for me to talk and identify. Sure. We have to play the game, but we need to know what that game looks like. I mean, look at the Dodgers. They sign Ohtani and they defer all his money. They defer it all, so it doesn't count. So, like, if you're an executive in Major League Baseball, like, how is this possible, right? But then
it's upsetting to watch as a Yankees fan, I'll tell you that much.
Well, and I'm a Braves fan, so we have to get through them too. So, I mean, we have to get through them before we get to the World Series. So, no, as a Yankees fan, you don't have much to talk about either, just because you guys have a different pot of money than everybody else. There's never going to be pure equity in athletics, and there shouldn't be. Somebody's going to be the Oakland Athletics, and there's going to be the Dodgers and the Yankees. But there has to be some type of framework of rules, and that's what's being worked out right now. Whether they're going to settle for a $2+ billion settlement, or whether they're going to get sued for $20 billion. We're going to see where this all lands. We're just sitting back and waiting, and trying to be as proactive as we can to build rosters, because right now, Sean, it's so transactional, and we refuse as we're running our program, even though it's transactional on building rosters and on a year-to-year basis, we refuse during this process of we get our roster together, they come and we start working with them in the summertime. We refuse to not build relationships with depth with our players, because at the end of the day, we have a responsibility for our student athletes to help develop men of the future who are going to be incredible community members, professionals outside of basketball. Perfect world, go play till you're 35, okay? But then you have 40 years left to come back and do something, okay? We hope that when you were in our program, you've helped build a network and a framework and a foundation that can help you into the future. And that academic walk, that walk of faith, that walk socially, all of this plays a role in developing humans. So we're just going to work every day to do the right thing on that side of things, while we wait for leadership at the top to give guidance that's going to make sense for everybody. And really, I mean, I represent my school, so I am an employee of Houston Christian, so I'm going to stand by what our administration wants to do, and right now that is continue to stand on amateurism and move forward while supporting their stance and looking for guidance into the future of what this is going to look like, and then we'll make decisions down the line once there's some more stability in place.
So obviously heading to Houston Christian, you've won pretty much everywhere you've been. How do you continue that winning that you establish in other places like Emporia State and at the NAIA level and the JUCO levels? How do you bring that to Houston Christian and bring them to a level that they haven't previously been?
Yeah, Sean. Well, so I appreciate that question too. Every program we seem to take over is a rebuild. We're kind of like acquisition entrepreneurs. So if you like to go buy out companies, you don't buy a company that's performing at top level, because number one, you're going to pay top dollar for it. Number two, there's no margin to improve it. What we do, we went to Rock Valley College. They called it Rock Bottom College before we got there. And then we won 2 national championships. It ended up being a junior college destination spot for kids in that Chicagoland, Rockford area. We left, we went to Graceland University, won an NAIA national championship. We had 4 full rides. I had to carry 2 JV teams. We had 4 full rides, and we stretched amongst 38 kids on the roster.
Wow.
Okay. And luckily some of those junior college guys, in fact, that behind me right there, they're pretty much LT Davis's trophies. He was the point guard in junior college, and he followed me to Graceland instead of going to Division I, just because we had that relationship.
Wow.
If there's NIL back then, he certainly wasn't following me. I'd have told him to go take the money, but back then there wasn't. So, he came with, and these are LT Davis. It's always a player's game. Those are LT Davis's stuff. But at the end of the day, we've been able to build these programs just like we acquire a company that we feel has more meat left on the bone. We feel has some assets that we can tap into to wake it up, to be that shot of life that it needs. And Emporia State was very similar. I mean, they were ranked last in the MIAA when we got the job, and we were nationally ranked in the polls, or recognized either receiving votes or nationally in the polls for the last 4 years there, and we were there for 6. So everybody says the same thing at Houston Christian as they said at Emporia and at Graceland and at Rock Valley, like, be careful, that could be a dead end job for you. We see it as excitement. We get to come and we get to build this up. And right away, I just met with the Board of Trustees yesterday, and the excitement in that room to have that new energy and to communicate what our future plans and vision of the program is, Sean. We have a small facility, but we're going to embrace that. I mean, it holds about 1,000 people. And we're going to be inviting youth groups from around the community to come on in. The loudest youth group gets to come back on senior night as well. We're going to be having concerts ran literally right out over there, but an hour and a half before games. We're in Houston. We got musicians all over the place. We're going to get that place rocking, get everybody from that side of campus coming over here, get some food trucks out there. As soon as the ball's about to be tipped up, concert ends, everybody goes on in. We had the Howland Huskies Club. We're tracking attendance of the student body coming in. Whoever's the loudest, whoever attends the most, there's gonna be a sliding scale there. We put a 75-inch TV on the line for a drawing for whoever can come the most. There's different tiers. We just got to build excitement for it. You can do it by waiting and winning and organically building, or you can have an external reach where you go out and you communicate with others and you connect with people. And that's how we're building this thing up, Sean. And, NIL or no NIL, we're going to do the best we can every single day. We're going to do it for our student athletes and for our school. And we're going to build excitement here that we feel is going to be sustainable into the future.
Whether you are a world-class athlete or a podcaster like me, we all understand the importance of mental and physical well-being and proper recovery for top-notch performance. After a 6-month season loaded with cross-country travel, I can promise you that proper recovery is a priority for me these days. That's why I'm excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring this episode of the Field of 68. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or the EE system. If you haven't heard of the EE system yet, you'll want to listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. Whether you're here in New Jersey or at one of the hundreds of other locations across the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. If you're interested in experiencing the EE system technology for yourself, go to unifiedhealing.com/unified68 to learn more and find a center near you. That's UNIFYD healing.com/UNIFYD, the number 6, the number 8. No material or testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment, and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, including the EE system.
Obviously, having a style of play that people can gravitate to and can be excited about is one thing, and you've talked about your defense a little bit. Is that the kind of style you want to win with at Houston Christian? You want to be a defensive head coach? Has that always been your thing?
Well, I'm an offensive coach at heart. My players probably get annoying as I'm watching other college games, or they get annoyed with me, excuse me, as I'm watching college games and NBA games throughout the season, and I'm on my DVR constantly just rewinding, videotaping, sending them the stuff. Well, what set is this? Well, okay, we're running Pro 1. It's a flex screen, down screen out of a horn set. It's what we have into. No, it's very tough to find, Sean, today, anybody that's coming up with action that's original. Okay, nothing's original. Everything has been done. I mean, even ghost screens are big today, where you're coming up to set a screen, you're cutting that screen short, and you're either arc slipping or you're rim diving, one or the other. And the goal is to confuse the on-ball defender as well as the guy who's coming up to the screen. Hopefully getting the guy on the ball sideways. So you're going to get two on the ball to move it, or you're going to get the guy on the basketball sideways so you can get into the paint. Well, we're watching clips and film actually from the 90s, and I mean, now all the spacing's terrible. It's tough to watch that, but there were literally ghost screens being set back then. So I thought this was new like 5 years ago, but it's like corduroys. Everything comes back. Hopefully they don't come back in style, but everything kind of comes back around again. And for us, despite being an offensive coach, I also am aware that right now, if you want offensive players that are proven at the Division I level, you have to buy them. And we can't buy them. So we don't have money to buy them. So we're taking players that have averaged 4 or 5 points per game that we feel are ready to take that next step up again. But when you don't have proven bona fide scores, you're really going to have to win with your defense. So we're a switching team at heart. We're not going to be able to switch all the time. Southeastern Louisiana has a 7-2 guy. That's going to be tough to switch a point guard. Even a uniform point guard's a 6'4", 6'5". It's going to be tough to put a 6'5" guy full front him. So we're going to have to stay at home sometimes. But our identity, what we want it to be, and what we're going to work for it to be every day, is to be a dynamic switching man-to-man defensive team that has different looks. Just because we're not going to have big slugs and we're not going to have little guards, we're going to have really versatile defenders. And we've been able to recruit them so long as their point per game average hasn't been too high, and get them in.
As long as they're not getting paid too much.
Well, exactly. Well, I mean, we feel if you're getting, a 10 grand throw here or 15,000, okay, we can beat you out because we can sell you on the system and then how much you can make going overseas when you're done playing with us. But you start getting 25, 30 plus. I mean, if you're getting 100, we're not talking, we're not wasting our time. But if you're getting, 25, 30 plus, we're just going to tell you to take it and we'll find somebody. There's a lot of talent out there. Everybody's in the portal. So it's just going to be building rosters. This junior college stuff that we went through, Sean, I think it's going to serve us very well. Having started our staff, my associate head coach, Evan Laver, and I, this is our 10th year together, third school. And we started at junior college, and you build rosters every year. Well, it's the same thing now. You're just doing it with, 22, 23-year-olds instead of 18, 19-year-olds. So We're cool with whatever the landscape is. We're going to identify it, recognize it. We're going to learn what's going on, and we're going to maximize it, not make excuses. We'll identify where we need to continue to grow and create assets for ourselves, but we're not going to make excuses on it. We're just going to identify and keep trying to push the envelope.
What made now the right time to make that jump to the Division I level? Because you're still really young. You've been a head coach for a long time at different levels, like we've talked about. But this is your first D1 head coaching gig. So what made it now the right time to take that jump for you?
Yeah, I think opportunity had to meet. We're in the MIAA, which is a really, really good conference. Ben McCullum was the head coach at Northwest Mo for the past 16 years. He was kind of a thorn in our side. Though I think we were kind of a thorn in his side a little bit too, which is good. He always had the last laugh as he was winning 4 national championships, and he's at Drake now. But we've had coaches that come to the league, and the coaching level is so high. It's difficult to make the jump as a Midwestern Division II in the MIAA. East Coast Division IIs, there's a lot of more low majors out there. There's a lot more parity amongst the haves and the have-nots. For us, it was what opportunity could we have that would be the right fit. As somebody who's a Christian, Sean, I thought it was important that I found a school, and I thought Jerome Tang blew this out of the water at a public school last year, which I thought was awesome. I thought one of the things that spoke volumes, he said, every day preach the gospel, but sometimes use words. And that's living your life in a way that your student athletes see how you honor your wife and how you're a great parent and how you do those things. But Tang also preached the gospel right to the media, like it was his pulpit at a state school, and that's uncommon. That's uncommon to do. At a private school, you can unabashedly do it and not have to worry about any repercussions. And I think speaks a lot about Tang that he didn't care about repercussions anyway. He just dove right in with it. But I think the impact that you can make on student athletes at this level, certainly socially, academically, all the things we talk about on their walk and their journey, but also from the faith aspect. With salvations, I think that's pretty important, pretty important in the grand scheme of things. And we're going to be able to impact lives at a whole new level, we feel. So that's why this specific school, Houston Christian, was the right fit for me. I also selfishly feel that when you work at a private Christian school that lives on and is stapled and is built on the gospel, I feel like it changes you as a coach too. I think it holds you accountable and on a daily basis, and it's really powerful for the employees of that university. So we felt it was the right fit, right time. I mean, it's very volatile time in college basketball. So, I was really taking care of it at my last school, and whether it be financially, scholarship wise. I go from one of the best setups in the country in Division II to what some people would argue be one of the most challenging jobs in all of Division I. Now, when we got Emporia State, it wasn't. It was a very tough job. We've had a new admin come through, and they've just thrown tons of money into facilities and into salaries and into scholarships and budgets. So we grew that from building success. We think we can do the same thing here. We think that when we're down here, they had 6 wins last year. Let's start by trying to double that. Let's try to get to 12 wins next year. And then let's get that thing rolling. Now, I'd love to talk 20 wins, all this, but I don't like putting my foot in my mouth, Sean, because it's just college basketball is so tough. You're always an injury away from being a lot worse than you should be. And it's just so volatile. So we're just ready to continue to work every day and be the best that we can.
So if we were talking, 8, 9, 10 months from now, and we were talking about what the key was to get to whatever your season finished with, whether it's 12 wins like you said, what was the key to get there for you guys?
We're going to have to guard. We're going to have to be really tough. Like when you're not buying your roster, you're going to have toughness. You have to have togetherness. We're going to have to win the rebounding battle and create extra possessions for ourselves there. And we're going to have to win the turnover margin. So those are all things that we're going to have to manipulate that box score a little bit. Because we're not going to have the bona fide offensive talent that maybe some other teams have. We'll have functional scores. We'll put them in strength positions. We'll help have them have space to play in and be effective offensively. But we're going to have to be a complete team. And that's going to be fun to coach. I thought we were really offensive heavy the past couple of years, especially last year at Emporia State. We were able to get Elijah Cometier transfer from Colorado Springs. He averaged 20.6 a game, and we get him. If he transfers from 26.6 points per game in this current era, he's worth $100,000 on the open market. And we got him Division II to Division II just 2 years ago. So everything has changed so much. And he stayed after, he came to us and was really good. Owen Long went from Youngstown State where he averaged just a couple points per game as the 8th man. He averaged 19 a game in the league for us 2 years ago, and he stayed for us. Again, these guys are back in the portal again, so it's a whole new era. But with that said, we don't have that offensive bona fide firepower. So when we look at how do you compete, how do you win, and how can you really win on the road? Because that's a big, big thing for you. I think it has to be doing all those little things with rebounds, with getting extra possessions, and with playing together.
And the last question I have here, I haven't seen your guys' non-conference schedule, but between non-conference and obviously Southland schedule, which environment are you most excited to coach in?
Well, Southland schedule, we're playing against teams that have $100,000 and $900,000. We're playing Power 5 schedules. They have 2.5 plus million collectives. So I'm more excited to play in the Southland, but I feel those Power 5 games, which we currently have 3 on the schedule, we're looking to potentially get a 4th. We may go with a high-level mid instead. So you got a lot of options in scheduling when you take over the team that was 357 in the net out of 362.
People want to play you. Yeah.
Everyone, we want to create a problem in a couple of years. Like we have some schools calling, and they're like, hey, we'll give you a mid, we'll give you 80,000 to play. And I said, we're not even close. I mean, it's going to be 95 minutes. And I say, if we get this net to 240, I'll take 80. Okay. Our net is 357. We don't have a collective. So you're going to pay us. We're going to show up. We're going to be classy. We're going to be professional. We're not going to throw some junk defense at you that is, we're going to play man to man. We're going to do things to help prepare you, but you're going to pay us to come play you. I know what our value is in terms of what we inherited. But again, we hope we create a problem with that. I can't imagine McNeese State can get very many games right now.
No, the good mids cannot get games. That's just kind of what it is. Like you're having a real problem.
You're having a problem. That's a good problem to have. That's a healthy problem to ultimately have. But we're most excited to get in the Southland play. But along the way, that journey through, I mean, we got a contract back on Creighton, so we'll go to Omaha and play. It's going to be a fun environment. I think some of these teams are trying, and Brad Brownell at Clemson called out some of the schools. You look what Houston did, you look what Iowa State did with their non-conference, and they're blasting low majors by 40. And it's kind of manipulating the net a little bit. So what are teams doing now? Well, teams want to play a Houston Christian or a team's 300 or worse in the net. They want to win by 40 or 50 because that actually doesn't completely resemble a quad 1 win, but it actually benefits you at a level more than if you would have a quad 2 win. So I mean, there's a lot of value until this formula changes, and we'll see kind of what direction that goes. But we're excited about the whole thing, the comprehensive season, the work that goes into it. It doesn't mean it won't be absent of challenges. There'll be challenges all over the place, but this is what we signed up for. Leading young men is a challenge. Leading young men in completely different times as we're looking for new framework of leadership at the NCAA level makes it even more challenging. But I also think the opportunities are there to change lives, Sean, and that's what we're going to work for every day.
Thanks to head coach Craig Doty from the Houston Christian for joining us on Off the Carousel this time.